Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and as they made their way, his disciples began to pluck ears of grain. And the Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is not lawful on the Sabbath?" And he said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he was hungry? He and those who were with him, how he entered in the house of God when Abner was high priest, and ate the bread of the presence, which is not lawful for any but the priest to eat, and also gave those to him. And he said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not the man for the Sabbath. So the Son of the Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Today's speaker is Daniella, Alli.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In middle school, I had a friend named Brenda. When we first met each other, I honestly did not think that I could be friends with her because she was so much cooler and popular than I was. Nevertheless, we ended up being placed in the same classes in sports and became close friends. Over time, I began to notice something interesting about Brenda. At school, she was the most exciting and hyped person in my grade level. She always had mischief up her sleeve and never failed to put a smile on my face. However, anytime I texted her after school for hours to talk about the most random things, I noticed that her warm and bubbly energy disappeared. And no, I didn't bore her to death with my cringy jokes. As my brother and sister would agree, I'm boring in many ways, but not that boring. I noticed that Brenda always seemed sad or down about certain things. Even though she initially never told me what was wrong, I could tell that something was different. I still remember the day when she literally told me that Brenda was not even her real name. I was obviously shocked and began to worry that I had accidentally become friends with a secret psychopath. Things got even weirder after Brenda told me that she couldn't reveal her real name because she knew that my curiosity would cause me to search her up on Google. And yeah, she wasn't wrong. She told me that she was worried about what I may find online about her background if she gave me her full legal name. Over time, Brenda and I became closer. She began to open up to me, and one night she finally told me about her secret past. She told me that she was from New York. She and her family had moved down to Texas to live away from her dad, who was the leader of a gang in the Bronx. At home, she was constantly exposed to gun violence and had a family that was fragmented by the impacts of her dad's poor choices. In all honesty, when Brenda first told me all of this, I didn't believe her and thought that she was just playing around. However, as she began to tell me more about her background and the toll that it had on her mental health, I began to take her more seriously. Gradually, I even grew an admiration for her high-spirited and extroverted personality that couldn't be suppressed by her past experiences. I loved Brenda. Now as I look back and talk to you all about our relationship, I can affirmatively say that she was a terrible influence. At one point, I cared about Brenda so much that my life seemed to revolve entirely around her. I grew distant from many of my closest friends because I spent most of my time talking or texting with only Brenda. I even changed my personal opinions and tastes so that we could have more in common. In school, she was a horrible student that had a habit of disrespecting other kids and teachers, even the really compassionate teachers that always overlooked her mistakes that would have gotten any other student expelled. Eventually, I also began to talk back to teachers and mock them behind their backs just because it made Brenda laugh and think that I was cool. I began to hang out with a crowd of vapors and alcoholics and became sick of school just so that I would have something to complain about with Brenda over text every day. Throughout this whole ordeal, my family never failed to remind me that I was just not being myself. I stopped spending time with them, always fought with my parents, and seemed to always be angry. I treated my siblings, Tony, Daniel, and Michelle, really, really terribly. However, they never gave me the cold shoulder that I deserved. In one instance, Daniel got into really big trouble with school administration and police officers because of something that he said to defend me in front of another student that I was extremely rude to. And told me always try to lighten my mood with small jokes that I would never laugh at. I thank him, my sisters, and my parents for all the support that they have given me over the years. Even though they may not know it, their care and love means everything. My family and I's move to Saudi Arabia in 2021 was a blessing in disguise. Of course, they seemed very far from the truth when I gave my final goodbyes to family and childhood friends. I was especially devastated about leaving Brenda. We promised to text each other every day, regardless of the time difference. But I knew that our relationship would eventually end. And yeah, that was exactly what happened. Even though I initially missed Brenda a lot after my family and I moved, I quickly fell in love with my new home in Saudi. I stopped complaining about everything and finally realized the blessings that I failed to appreciate before. I grew in my faith and developed a clearer sense of my personal identity that had become lost in my desire to preserve a relationship that made life and growing up seem a little less daunting. When I was in middle school, I was best friends with Brenda. With her, I believed I would never have to face hard or uncomfortable seasons alone. With her, I was also selfish and naive. In middle school, I placed myself in an isolated bubble and was unable to see beyond my needs, my desires, and my feelings. Nevertheless, I'm extremely grateful for that season of my life. If I hadn't met Brenda, I may have never realized and come to appreciate the immensity of life. This morning, I just want to offer encouragement to stay focused on the biggest things. We will all go through low and high seasons in life. We should expect to face uncomfortable and challenging situations that offer us opportunities to grow. These opportunities are presented to us every day as we learn in the classroom, interact with others, participate in extracurriculars, and try to be better people. We cannot give in to the temptation to seek solace in relationships, circumstances, and easy aspirations that limit our potential for growth. I offer another encouragement from one of my favorite Bible verses, Philippians 3, verse 13. Brothers and sisters, I know that I have not yet reached that goal, but there is one thing I always do, forgetting the past and straining toward what is ahead. Get out there. Always strive for better. Don't allow comfortability to prevent you from embracing change. There's so much to life beyond your bubble convenience. So live, and don't be afraid of adversity. This is a lesson that you all can learn at St. James. It's a lesson that I will continue to learn throughout the rest of my time here and wherever life takes me next. Thank you.